Yeah, that was really great. And I just want to say, in terms of Al Jazeera English, if you want to try to push the distributors to give us more access to Al Jazeera, to promote it more, to be more upfront with it, you can go to openmedia.ca, and we have a campaign where you can easily send a letter to all the cable and satellite companies and encourage them to give more access to Al Jazeera English. And I'd really appreciate the grounding us in what's going on critically, but also the optimistic notes. I think that's really great, and it was, I think we need to celebrate Al Jazeera English, because it was questionable if they would be allowed into this country to broadcast, and it was those comments from citizens, people like you, that made that happen, and that's a really good victory. And we've had a few like that, and certainly it's sort of, like David said, there's small victories that sort of build on each other. So net neutrality is a good example of that as well. We got rules to keep the internet open, then we got those connected to wireless, and then the next step is having ISP audits. And the same thing with Al Jazeera English. We got them carriage, and then the next step is pushing the distributors to carry them, and more, and now they pretty much all are. And then now it's just a matter of giving us, making their audience more aware of it. So I think it's really great, and again, like the number of people here, I've been involved in this event for the last 4 years now, and this is definitely the biggest crowd we've seen by far. And I also want to thank Tyler and Gala and the advisory committee for all their great work. This is really amazing. Just a brief note before we go to questions. Some people have been asking if there will be videos online, and there will be. We'll definitely post some at openmedia.ca and the Media Democracy Day website. You can sign up to our mailing list upstairs, and we'll send it out. We'll send them out to people if you want to get access to those. Will CITR also have this?
Yeah, all the panels from today, this afternoon in the Alice McKay room will be made available as a full podcast, so you can check our website for that as well.
Cool, and that's CITR.ca?
And our online stream is down, so if anyone is wondering, that's the issue. So
okay.
Tune in on your radio.
Okay, so we'll go to questions now. Try to keep them really short so everyone has a chance to speak who wants to. You gotta line up by that mic there, and again, please do keep them as short as possible, because there's a lot of people lining up. Okay.
It's not on.
Hello? Oh, sorry. I have a problem with Media Democracy Day. And I was trying to figure out what to say and how to think about it, and then I realized...
Can you make sure you address to the
Yes,
candidate?
I am. This is fundamentally a Canadian and Middle Eastern question for all the panelists. But as to Media Democracy Day, I've always had a problem with the concept, and I think I now, standing here, understand why. And that is that I believe more in media literacy, which I can have every day, than I believe in media democracy on any day. And the reason is because I think that we misunderstand democracy. Most people think democracy is a vote. I think the most important thing in democracy is the question. And there's been talk about Al Jazeera. And many Canadians are also citizens of Middle Eastern countries. When there was a crisis in Lebanon, the Canadian public came to understand that there were over 50,000 Lebanese citizens that are also Canadian citizens. So the question and thought of an English Al Jazeera and a Middle Eastern Al Jazeera, which presumably speaks in a number of Middle Eastern languages, I'm wondering, are the questions that are raised on Al Jazeera in the Middle East reflected here in Al Jazeera English? Are they fundamentally different, or do they reflect a more global type of media? vote in democracy limits us to a country. Al Jazeera shows how a country two countries can reach across the earth.
Okay, I'm gonna cut you off there. Okay.
Yeah, so very quickly, I mean, Al Jazeera Arabic, whose audience is primarily in the Middle East, and Al Jazeera English, whose audience is throughout the world, with probably relatively few people in the Middle East who primarily speak Arabic. I mean, they're kind of independent of each other. We share resources, technical TV resources when suitable, for obviously for economic reasons. The reporting is rarely duplicated. Sometimes in a earthquake or something, depending on breaking news, you know, the Arabic reporters who are all fluent will on occasion appear on Al Jazeera English. But I mean, the editorial approach is different in that they have different audiences, and the example that I would use, you know, is easily, I think, understood in Canada. It's very much like within the CBC. You have Radio Canada, you have a French language national network whose audience is primarily in Quebec. You have CBC, an English-speaking network with relatively few viewers or listeners in Quebec, whose audience is spread across the country. Are these two networks identical? Of course they're not identical, because they're dealing with different audiences that have different interests, different starting points. Can you, if one was careful and you watched Al Jazeera English and Al Jazeera Arabic, do they appear to be brothers or sisters from different families? No. I mean, the groundbreaking, challenging spirit of Al Jazeera, the commitment to ensure that the developing world gets a fair crack at the international discussion, the fact that we're the voice, we try to reflect the voice of the voiceless, we try to focus on human beings far more than the corporate mainstream media. These are common values, but the reality is that if Al Jazeera Arabic is to do its job, and it does its job wonderfully well as the leading Arabic news channel in the world, it's because it's in tune with its Arabic-speaking audience, primarily in the Middle East. Al Jazeera English is aspiring to do the same thing, but dealing with a different audience. So that's the distinction.
If I can just, thank you, sorry. Just to address the point of media literacy, which is, I think, is a very good point. One of the things about such a, you know, large and wonderful event is we can't all be at all of the panels and all of the discussions. And last night, for those of you that were unable to make it, I mean, Stuart Points from the School of Communication up at Simon Fraser University, he made a really good point about how media literacy does indeed and is part of media democracy. And certainly for people to participate fully in media literacy is a key element, and it certainly is something that we should be thinking about when we're doing this kind of work.
Yeah,